Hello YouTube. It's been a while since my last video. I was mostly homeless for the last 2.5 years and didn't feel like asking for likes and subs. I'm currently stable for a few weeks and was fretting over a video that I've been considering making for the last 2 years. Then I saw a CNN article on Twitter and it pissed me off. Why would the core stop turning and go in reverse? You see, the operative word here is may. It's annoying that this is the best explanation that people can come up with and is reported as news. Since I had figured this out when I was 27, I reckon it would be easy for me to make a video about it. Why the poles flip will take a little bit to explain, so it's best to start with how to stop it. A few years ago, I posed a question on the Ask Engineers subreddit. I asked if this perpetual engine machine would work. It was a complete freakout with lots of insults. I was just trying to share some of my ideas. In a way, I understand their resistance. Perpetual motion machines are technically impossible. But if a perpetual energy machine is possible, then perpetual motion is a logical consequence. Then I reposed this question under a pseudonym on Quora. I asked, if we chain free piston Stirling engines together, wouldn't they produce an exponentially more amount of energy? I got much of the same energy from most responses, save one. A retired aerospace engineer responded saying, it will never be exponential. It'd be at best additive. Two engines will produce almost twice the output as one engine. I say almost because two or more motors gang together will have losses in one engine or more compared to the stronger engine. Just physics. Let me explain how perpetual energy can be achieved by chaining Stirling engines together. If you feel raw about it, post about it in the comments. To understand how Stirling engines work, I recommend watching the YouTube video displaying now. Also, there are quite a few others with good explanations. For our purposes, we just need to understand that there is a heat exchange, either from hot to cold or cold to hot. As long as there is a temperature differential, a Stirling engine will oscillate. A free piston Stirling engine has an added mechanic. In this animation, the heat source is here. Usually, they run cold water through here to create a heat differential, thus creating an oscillation. The piston is connected to a magnet that's inside a coil of wires, creating an alternating current. That current is sent to a converter, creating a direct current. Going back to my image, instead of running water, I suggested connecting the cooler end of one engine to the base of another engine, then repeating the process until the heat is cooled off at the final engine. Each successive engine will produce slightly less direct current than the previous engine. Here's what freaked people out so much. Why they believe what I'm saying defies the laws of thermodynamics. With the direct current generated, the chain of engines can heat and cool itself indefinitely. Now let's consider each part. Can we generate heat with a direct current? Yes, we do it every day with things like irons. Since irons don't have any moving parts, if you supply enough current, it will literally stay hot nearly indefinitely. Next are the free piston Stirling engines. They also have no moving parts. As heat passes through each one, they will generate direct current. Will they eventually break down? Well, in 2020, NASA's Glenn Research Center celebrated 14 years of continuous operation of its Stirling engine with no degradation. I guess something happened in 2020 that made them stop announcing the thing is still running. The final piece is generating cold. With direct current, we can make cold with a condenser. This is nothing more than half of the refrigeration process. Condensers have no moving parts, meaning it will operate nearly indefinitely without maintenance. How many times in your life has your refrigerator stopped being cold? Exactly. Not only can a chain of free piston Stirling engines power itself, it can also generate more current than it needs to operate. Trying to smack down all the objections will make this video extremely long. Feel free to send your hate in the comments below. As I said, this is the solution. Now, let's focus on the problem. One more hurdle before addressing the main problem is the Big Bang Theory. The truth is, the Big Bang Theory has been disproven multiple times over multiple generations. The scientific community keeps advancing it as truth for two reasons. First, Einstein. That's it. That's the first reason. The second reason is this image. The life cycle of a star. Humans have been watching the cosmos for thousands of years, and they've agreed that the life cycle of a star is precisely this. I agree with them, by the way. Fortunately for me, there's a nice Wikicommons image illustrating the various stages of a star. There are many videos on YouTube depicting and illustrating what looks like the birth of a star. While the videos themselves might be accurate, the accompanying descriptions sound more like witchcraft. Is there a better explanation for the life cycle of a star than the Big Bang Theory? Yes, and fortunately for us, many people have inadvertently made YouTube videos of it. This video depicts a hypersphere passing through three-dimensional space. Do you notice what's happening on the left? This is what a hypersphere would look like as it passed through our plane of existence. Does it look familiar? I hope so. The life cycle of a star strongly resembles a hypersphere passing through three-dimensional space. The question is, why would it take a star billions of years to pass through our plane of existence? This is because stars, like our sun, are moving almost parallel to our plane of existence. It's likely off by an infinitesimal fraction of a degree, thus making all existence exploding from a single point impossible for the gajillionth time. If all that exists came from a single explosion, then stars would all move parallel to our plane of existence. Everything would be moving in the same direction. The next issue in the saga of the Big Bang Theory is how stars grow in mass. As usual, they look at what is happening and try to make the Big Bang Theory fit. So what is happening? For some reason, stars are continuously emitting hydrogen and helium ions. There's literally a boundless ocean of hydrogen and helium in the universe, and for some reason, these atoms have been stripped of their electrons. Feel free to listen to their reasoning online. For now, I'll try to paraphrase a Big Bang theorist. Stars are constantly undergoing constant fusion because of gravity and magic. After lots of magic and fusion, hydrogen and helium gets expelled at a high enough velocity to escape the gravitational pull of a star. The electrons of these ions remain in the star, and because of gravity and magic, the stars get bigger. There are fundamental problems trying to apply the Big Bang Theory as to why stars get bigger for no apparent reason. The first problem is, if stars are constantly losing matter, they should shrink. Secondly, no amount of magic would allow ions to both escape massive gravitational pulls and also the attraction of positive to negative. Fundamentally, if the entire universe is full of positive ions and stars are full of electrons, then there would have been evidence in the thousands of years of observation of massive lightning strikes in space. I believe the problem here is our limited understanding of what zero and infinity really means. Let's assume that a star is a hypersphere slowly passing through our plane of existence. Also, let's consider what a hypersphere is. A circle is comprised of infinite points rotated about a certain axis. A sphere is comprised of infinite circles rotated about a certain axis. A hypersphere, similarly, is comprised of infinite spheres rotated about a certain axis. From a different perspective, hyperspheres are limited, but from our perspective, it is infinite. As a hypersphere passes through our reality, it's as if there's a new sphere passing through our existence every moment. What happens as it passes? Electrons are ripped from it, above and below our reality, in a parallel way. These electrons form a sort of barrier for all of creation. We will see evidence of this later. In my opinion, these electron barriers are responsible for what we call gravity. Also, each successive sphere passing through our reality releases a comparable amount of ions in our plane of existence. Gravity has little impact on these ions, as the motion of passing through our existence has consequences. Hydrogen and helium are forced out of the hypersphere, literally leaving an endless, ever-expanding ocean of hydrogen and helium ions. How about some evidence of my claims? I'm 45 now, so about 18 years ago I postulated that all matter is oscillating between parallel walls of electrons. I suspect that everything we know has a fourth dimension to it, except that this dimension is infinitesimally thin. Given that assumption, everything must have the same changes of state as a star passing through our plane of existence. First, there's nothing, then what appears to be energy, then a point followed by a change in mass, and then energy, and finally, again, nothing. This video showing will illustrate what modern science has to say about this. Thanks to Einstein, quantum mechanics, and the modern double-slit experiment, the scientific community has declared that all matter is both a particle and a wave. Personally, I believe this is incomplete. I suspect every particle oscillates in a fourth direction, perpendicular to the wall of electrons. We believe that all matter exists both as a particle and energy because we can test for these things. However we choose to observe it is what it will look like to us. We understand what a particle is, but how can a particle also be a wave? As the particle passes out of existence, from our perspective, it becomes energy, much like a black hole. There are two other states that would complete the picture: a change in mass and passing out of existence. I can't prove that subatomic particles regularly shift mass and density, but there is one particle that clearly phases out of existence: neutrinos. Neutrinos have the ability to pass through solid matter. In fact, many neutrinos that come from the sun completely pass through the entire Earth. There are currently underground facilities in America, Japan, and the South Pole observing these particles as they regularly pass through solid matter. Currently, the Department of Energy is creating a beam of neutrinos which passes through the surface of the Earth to further study these particles and others. In truth, these are all educated guesses made by me, but I believe one day we will have a deeper understanding of how all particles have a fourth dimension to them. I could be wrong, of course, but my hypothesis gives a decent explanation of why the poles shift. The mid-oceanic ridge forces magma up through the Earth's crust. Magnetic minerals in the magma align themselves to the Earth's magnetic field and we could observe that about every 300,000 years the poles flip. Likewise, we can observe that the magnetic field failing in some spots and the seafloor spreading both indicate that a pole shift is imminent. The University of Maryland is currently trying to study how the Earth's magnetic field is generated. The video showing illustrates their progress. They speculate that the Earth's molten core is comprised of metal, and the Earth's flotation causes the electrons in the core to disperse throughout the Earth. Unfortunately, they have failed to produce a corresponding electromagnetic field. They say that they need to build up more speed. What they did do is apply a magnetic field to the entire experiment, and it created a somewhat desired effect. I agree with everything they've done so far, but they failed to take into account where the Earth is. Our planet is literally submerged in an ocean of positive ions. Since the ground is negative because of the core's geodynamo effect, this creates atmospheric electricity. The Earth's surface has a current of 3.5 microamps per square kilometer. As a species, we ignore this current because it's so insignificant. When you consider that the air is a terrible conductor of electricity, you'll realize that this number jumps significantly based on the amount of moisture in the air. In addition to this, the current increases by 100 volts per every meter you go up into the air for anything that's connected to the ground, meaning our skyscrapers increase the rate of electrons that are lost from the surface of the Earth. But the electrical losses of tall buildings are dwarfed by all the mountain ranges scattered around the world. All of those electrical currents are insignificant compared to the losses at the poles. Ions are funneled into our atmosphere from the ionosphere. As they crash into various molecules of air, they form the northern and the southern lights. Considering all of this, I suspect to make the University of Maryland's experiment work, they will need to attach a diode to their geodynamo and siphon off electrons at a similar rate to the Earth. Going back to the seafloor spreading, we can reasonably predict what's happening. Even with all the electrical losses, it takes the Earth hundreds of thousands of years to lose most, if not all, of its electrons. But something happens to replenish every single electron. I suspect that once depleted, the Earth's electrons are replaced by the infinite supply of electrons emanating from the sun above and below our plane of existence. The poles flip based on where the electrons came from. The last piece of the puzzle is pulling enough electrons from the edges of our existence to either slow down or completely stop the pole shift. I already told you what the solution was, but there's still a little bit of explaining to do. While a chain of free-piston Stirling engines sounds interesting, the real solution is in the converter. There are many parts of a converter, but the only part I want to be concerned with is a transformer. Of the things I've said that was controversial, this may take the cake. I believe eddy currents and heat are the after effects of electrons being pulled in from the edges of reality. So in fact, the process of converting alternating current to direct current, in my opinion, could generate the current necessary to artificially replenish the Earth's lost electrons. If I'm correct, when the Earth runs out of electrons, there will be a massive eddy current formed where the field used to be, and also a significant amount of heat. We don't need to use free-piston Stirling engines. We could use a chain of steam turbines as well. It will simply take too much effort to put them together. I readily admit that I made all of this up on my own, and it could all be bunk. Before you fill the comments up with hate, answer me this. How did the Earth survive billions of years, submerged in an ocean of positive ions? Also, you have to admit, my theory is better than the Earth's core may start spinning in reverse. Thanks for watching. The video that I plan to do next will be much longer. It'll be called Money, the Root of All Evil. I will discuss in detail how currency is on the verge of completely failing and never recovering, and what we can do about it. It was all of the things that I left out of my latest book, How to Control Humans. If I have the space and the energy to make it, then it will be eye-opening. Otherwise, given all that's happening nowadays, it's been a pleasure.